Hi, I'm your Senator Chuck Grassley, once again with you as I am weekly for this Ask Chuck webcast, in which you email, Facebook, or tweet questions to me, and we'll get to those questions in just a minute. But I want to thank you for your participation in the process of representative government, which basically means two-way communication and dialogue if you're going to have representative government. So once again, it gives me an opportunity to turn to those questions, and so I will read them from my BlackBerry. Ryan in Urbandale tweets, quote, being in the minority in the Senate, what meaningful compromises are you willing to make with the Dems? He means Democrats. I would answer your question in regard to the committees I serve on, because most opportunities for bipartisan compromise comes at the committee level. And it isn't a case of making compromises with Democrats. It's a case of the two parties willing to work together on a piece of legislation. And if you're willing to work together on developing a piece of legislation, you do it starting out with a blank sheet of paper, and you build from the bottom up, or from the foundation up, to get a bipartisan agreement. You generally don't make a decision to go along until the entire package is put together, because in the end there might be a lot of agreements on pieces within a package, but until there's an agreement on the total package, you really don't have a bipartisan agreement. So you wait till you're done and do that. For instance, we spent 3 months working on a health care reform bill, 3 Republicans and 3 Democrats. We did, in fact, start out with a blank sheet of paper. We build it and build it and build it throughout 31 meetings of the group of 6. And we were still going on roughly the middle of September when Reid and the White House, or Reid or the White House, decided that we were taking too long and they wanted to go ahead in a partisan way. That kind of pushed Republicans to the side. They went ahead. We still were talking to each other well into the end of the year, but eventually, as you know, a partisan bill passed the United States Senate, a bill that I voted against because it was not bipartisan. The second question comes from Facebook. Colleen Corville asked, quote, instead of freezing spending at the bloated levels of the past year, what about returning them to 2008 levels for those areas of the federal budget that were increased by up to 45% this past year? Colleen, I can't argue with you, but the realistic aspect of doing that is pretty minimum. Now, I may have some opportunities to vote for amendments to do that, but the mistake was made in the stimulus package of 1 year ago that we allowed those additional appropriations to be put into the base. Or maybe not so much true of the stimulus bill as true of several appropriation bills that were increased. For instance, the last Bush budget, 3% increases. The new team comes in a year ago, they immediately go to 9% increases for the rest of that fiscal year. And then for the fiscal year we're in now, it would be another 12%, I believe. So that 20% is built into the baseline. It should not be built into the baseline. Now, maybe what you're talking about, Colleen, a 45% increase, you may be counting some of the money that was in the stimulus bill, which is my understanding was not supposed to be built into the baseline. But freezing at these artificially high levels of 22% is not a big deal as the president is trying to make it out to be. On the other hand, we all know it's not as bad as if they wanted to continue 12% increases. My principle of spending, although it's not one that can be adopted consistently from year to year, because sometimes revenue's way up here, you wouldn't want expenditures to go way up there. Sometimes there's less revenue, like now in a recession, less coming in, but you kind of want to have an average. that would support increases in expenditures commensurate or parallel to the rates of taxes that bring money into the federal treasury. And that's not a constant, because you know the economy grows, so on the same tax rates you can have more money coming in this year than last year. So if you keep expenditures within the economic growth of the tax base supporting government, it seems to me you would end up over an average pretty fiscally sound spending. And that's where I would like to go, at least on an average of considering the ups and downs that you have. Now I always end this by giving you an update on what we're doing this week. This very day that I'm talking to you now, the President's budget has come out. So it's obviously at the committee level going to get a lot of attention. Not on the floor until sometime the second or third week of March, usually. And then what will be up later on this week, I don't know. It hasn't been announced. Reid makes that judgment, but there is some talk of another jobs bill coming up. If that jobs bill is oriented towards helping small business that creates 70% of the new jobs in America, I'm going to take a quick look at it. If it's just additional spending, I'm inclined to do like I did on the stimulus bill last year and vote against it. I hope that you've enjoyed participating in Ask Chuck webcast. Ask you to call in your questions for the next couple weeks that we're still in session before we take a week for town meetings. And I hope that you will send your questions, email, Facebook, or Twitter. Thank you very much.